How long have we been recording this podcast? 5 weeks? 2 days? That's a segue for first episode of Before and After podcast. I'm Antony Packer.
And I'm Aman Joel.
And we are two avid movie buffs who... You want to talk a little bit about it?
Sure. So this podcast is it's a unique spin on your standard movie review podcast. As the title would say, it's before and after. So the first, quarter, we'll figure that out. Is predictions that we'll make about the film. Keep in mind that we both haven't seen the film.
Yeah, we should talk. Maybe do people even know this is a movie podcast? Did you say that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Continue.
It's a movie podcast.
It is.
So yeah, we'll be making predictions. Some of them on base, some of them outlandish, but it's always usually based on maybe trailers.
Yeah. I've pretty much
what
just
the director
looked at the trailer
does
for this movie.
Yeah, certain actors' quirks.
Yeah.
I think we'll be hearing a lot more of Antony's Willem Dafoe as we proceed through this one.
Yes.
Just to get into some brief introductions.
Yeah.
So my name's Aman.
You work in the movie industry or
a previous experience in the movie industry. Growing up, had my toe dipped in there.
Oh, you did.
I just had the opportunities to act in a few films. Let you guys look that one up on IMDb.
Yeah.
Some shortcomings I have. I think people say my palate's a little diluted. I'm a sucker
I
for
say that.
I'm a sucker for the Hollywood blockbusters. But Antony's dragging me out. First episode, here we go. The Lighthouse. Antony, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Antony. Met Aman back in high school, actually. We've been friends ever since. I work in a number of different roles and occupations in and around the Vancouver film industry. Editing, shooting commercials. That's pretty much it. But yeah, obviously a big movie guy and hoping to eventually re-enter that industry, hopefully in a writing or directing capacity, but until then, just a fan on the side. Robert Eggers.
I thought you said Robert Pattinson.
Oh no, Robert.
Where'd he come from?
No. He's definitely, this is his second feature, really.
Yes, and you mentioned to me his age. He's
36 years old.
36.
And as a young director myself, I think I could be wrong, Robert. If you're listening, I apologize, but I think he came from the commercial sort of space as well.
He came through that route as well.
Yeah, and he has a few writing credits on some other films, but obviously his
directorial debut.
Obviously, his directorial debut was The Witch. Have you seen The Witch? Have we talked about The Witch ever?
You know I haven't.
You haven't seen The Witch?
No, I don't do scary movies.
It's not a scary movie. Well,
even for The Lighthouse, I saw the trailer for Joker when I was in Joker, and I had the scary movie stance going. I had
a little bit.
Ears plugged, eyes covered.
Yeah, damn. Yeah, okay, well, The Witch is more of a psychological thriller than a horror movie. Just to give you a really quick synopsis on that before we get into The Lighthouse. It's about this family who live in, really olden times, and they're part of this community, and for whatever reason, they're banished from this community, and they have to go live by themselves. It's two daughters, if I remember correctly, the husband and the wife, and they basically set up their own little life in the middle of this forest, and this entity is sort of messing with their family dynamic, and they all start turning on each other, and the dialogue is written very accurately to that time, so you don't even know what they're saying half the time, and they're super God-fearing, and it's crazy. So as soon as he did that, he hasn't done a movie since. That was 4 years ago. So I think he's one of those guys that puts a lot of energy into his movies, and then he's kind of he has to But I also hear he's doing a remake of Nosferatu.
I also heard he's doing some Viking movie as well.
Oh really? Yeah. So he's a bit of a weird guy, but it seems like this looks like quite the film.
Well, yeah. Let's get into it. So we're doing the Lighthouse.
Yeah. So we have what time is it now?
7:08 p.m.
7:08 p.m. We have tickets for the 10:15 showing.
I thought it was 10:30.
10:15.
Yeah. Shit, we gotta go soon.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're seeing it tonight. I've only seen the 2 trailers. I know basically nothing about the movie. I haven't seen the trailers for a while. So let's basically get into it. What are you expecting from this movie? What are you hoping from this movie?
I think I was mentioning to you earlier this week about how I wanted I know it's not going to be like this, but I'm a simple guy. I prefer a nice concrete storyline.
Yeah.
I want the trailer's shrouded in a lot of mystery, and I want like a nice outcome. But based on what I've read and what you've told me about Robert Eggers, is that I think we're going to be expecting something a lot more abstract.
Yeah, definitely. And I sort of noticed that the trailer follows that theme that a lot of trailers are doing, where they kind of pick like a musical cue or a word, and it escalates and escalates.
Yes.
And I feel like that's what we're going to get with this movie. I think it's going to start very slow and with some really weird visuals, and then it's slowly, you're going to build and build and build to like a massive scale in terms of the two characters, because obviously a contained film.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of it will take place on the island.
Do you think we're going to get any third, fourth characters?
Oh man.
Flashback of Robert Pattinson's parents kicking him out?
It seemed that could happen, but I don't think so. Not an episode of Lost. So yeah, okay. So let's just get right into it. I got some predictions here.
All right.
Yeah.
Hit me with it. Paint me some scenes here.
All right. So I think, I don't know if you remember from the trailer, but Robert Pattinson's holding this little miniature mermaid thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
How's that coming into play?
so Robert Pattinson, as I wrote here, Robert Pattinson clearly has a dark past because he's like just trying to start new.
Yeah.
Or is it
On
Irish?
the run.
Trying to start new, something like that.
On the run.
On the run. That was pretty good.
God, the Willem is coming out.
Yeah. So I think he's running from something. Maybe he murdered someone.
Yeah, but that's the misdirection, obviously.
Right. Well, that kind of stops my theory dead.
Keep going.
So bear with me, but this movie's gonna be out there. I think this mermaid thing may be foreshadowing of something more literal.
Oh.
I think we're looking at mermaids in this movie.
That was one of my predictions.
And sea creatures.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Do you think we're gonna get a Kraken appearance?
I think we might get, because like there's that one other shot where it's like the crazy waves and it looks like really scary.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing a mermaid. I think Robert Pattinson's in love with a mermaid.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
My prediction was I think we're gonna get a shot of some sort of tentacled monster wrapping its tentacle around the lighthouse.
And oh wow. And are we playing with this theme of are these monsters really here and these guys are just losing their minds? Is it just like?
Yeah, I think we're getting a psychological thriller. I don't think the monsters are actually there.
Right, because Willem Dafoe, I assume, has been here longer than Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson's like the new employee.
Yeah, that's what I felt as well.
Right. So when it comes to these is this lighthouse at the end of a long thing, or is it literally a rock that's you have to get to by boat? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
But how isolated is it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Another theory I had is that it could go the direction of The Village, and when it actually takes place in modern day. Could that be something that we could be looking at?
Now you're kind of getting into my fast questions here.
Okay, you got fast questions?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw you questions. You give me an answer.
Oh, is this a segment?
This is a bit of a segment.
Do we need like a time? What's the segment called?
I wrote down fast questions.
Fast questions.
Fast questions.
I'm ready.
All right, Anthony Packer. In the movie The Lighthouse, are we gonna see a death?
Yes.
Is Robert Pattinson gonna kill Willem?
I think I have that here. Robert Pattinson kills Willem Dafoe.
All right. Are we gonna see nudity? Are we gonna see Willem Dafoe's cheeks?
It's such a movie where you see Willem Dafoe's penis.
He goes strutting down,
Weirdly
drunken,
hairy.
right? Yeah, just massive.
I'm thinking it's a little surprisingly small.
All right, and this is my final fast question.
It's only for 3.
This is a good one though.
Okay.
Anthony, are we gonna see some color in this movie? The final shot, the wave breaks, and it's just a blue sky.
Oh, yeah, the rainbow comes through. Then you see this modern police running up and arresting Robert Pattinson. Oh no color.
I think.
You think you're gonna get some color?
I think we might get some color.
I don't think we get any
I'm
color.
excited to say that.
Maybe the flashbacks could be in color.
Oh, so there's gonna be flashbacks?
Well, if there are flashbacks.
I think there's gonna be flashbacks.
I haven't seen it. Okay.
Robert Pattinson with his parents as a boy.
I don't think we're seeing any Robert Pattinson parents. I think it's interesting that Robert Eggers has casted Robert Pattinson because I think he's still trying to break that mold that he built for himself with the Twilight franchise, and I think he's well on the way to breaking it. But I think Robert Eggers is aware of the audience will naturally. He's a very likable guy. Like I think the audience will latch to him and will be kind of anti Willem Dafoe because they've made him look kind of raggedy and kind of scary.
Yeah, it was kind of mean.
But I think Robert Pattinson's the real sinister one in the story. I'm quite confident about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have. I think there's gonna be like some hallucinogenics involved in this movie.
There's that scene in the trailer where they're like getting really drunk together.
Yeah, and I was thinking maybe some drug. Maybe they have some weird like
some 1800s
yeah,
fucking
like
mushrooms. And
yeah.
some shit. Yeah,
You take this with me.
And that's when we see the sea creatures.
Yeah, totally. Another theory I have is that the lighthouse. What?
You take this with me.
How long have we been popping this Molly? The lighthouse tests your morality and makes you confront your inner demons.
We're just completely off base. This show is really just literal as fuck.
Yeah, I know. Are we swearing on this fucking podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, of course.
Okay, what else do I got here? They are trapped on this little island. Oh, okay, yeah. So I think halfway or a quarter way through the movie, Robert Pattinson realizes that there's no getting off. Like, I think he walks in thinking like they leave, whatever. I don't know how light keeping works, but it's like we leave once a week or whatever. But he's gonna be like, there's no escape route. And then from there,
so Willem Dafoe's been on this lighthouse longer then?
Yeah, like maybe it's like a family thing. Like maybe Willem Dafoe's dad also took care of the lighthouse.
Well, I was thinking, what if Robert Pattinson is Willem Dafoe's son
or father?
Damn you, Robert Eggers! You did it again.
It could totally happen. There's some kind of time thing, and it's switched around. The other. Well, let me just finish that theory. So they've been trapped on this little island, and they realize it halfway through. But then they kind of play on the fact that Dafoe actually knows how to get off the whole time, but he's just like, he's like really lonely and like he wants like someone to like live with him, or he's just like, I don't know, maybe, oh wow, okay, this is a new segment, theory on the spot.
Theory on the spot.
Once you're like sworn to be the light keeper, you have to stay there until you can like find a replacement. So maybe he's trying to like trick Robert Pattinson into staying there so he can finally leave.
So we have some elements of like 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah.
With a mixture of a bit of Pirates of the Caribbean, Davy Jones' ship.
Yeah, a little bit of that. Maybe Davy Jones makes an appearance.
All right, yeah. Davy Jones, let's put it down.
What else do I got here? I'm running. I just have one line here. Aliens visit Lighthouse.
A nice alien scene. I got a new segment here, Antony.
Okay.
Paint me the opening scene.
Oh, okay.
Let's go ahead and give me the opening scene here. I'll jump in if I see it appropriate.
I think we start on a black. We see the A24 logo. Yeah. It goes to black, and we're just confronted with a black screen, and we hear like a weird noise.
Really?
Yeah.
Not waves crashing?
No. It's like.
Okay.
And you're like, what is this? And it gets louder and louder, and then it opens on the table in the lighthouse with a few bottles like turned over, like whiskey bottles and stuff, and then you just see that there's like a shadowy lump in the corner, like potentially a body.
Dead or alive?
We don't know.
Ooh. See, I see it going a little bit different.
Okay.
I like the black screen A24. It's gonna flash up. They gotta flex themselves a bit. Black screen, waves crashing.
Okay.
Exterior shot of the lighthouse.
Yeah. Oh, so you're going for very like, sort of not predictable, but like.
Oh, predictable
okay.
for sure. You can say it. And then Willem Dafoe's digging that grave type thing. I think we saw that in the trailer. It made you think it's Robert Pattinson. So he's digging some sort of grave, and then cut to Robert Pattinson walking in and meeting Willem Dafoe.
It would be cool if this movie has led you to believe that we're left in the dark for much of the movie. Mm-hmm. But another cool thing would be if we actually see what one of their secrets is right away. So like you're saying, yeah, Willem Dafoe's burying a body.
Yeah, exactly.
And now he's got to keep that a secret from Robert Pattinson as the movie goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe Robert Pattinson is like, he just has like an ulterior motive that we learn about like right away.
Yeah.
Let me give you one more segment. Paint me the final scene.
The final scene?
Yeah.
We skip 10 years later.
You say it with such confidence.
And we get a shot of a decrepit, rundown lighthouse.
Oh, they're going to say decrepit, rundown Robert Pattinson.
And it's Willem Dafoe.
How long have we been on this rock?
Ooh, yeah. What if What if?
And we
like,
see the new, like,
Yeah, and it's who is it? Tom Holland rolls up.
obviously. But does it bother you a little bit when people that this movie's in black and white?
No,
Do you think that they're trying to just
they're trying to be,
trendy?
Yeah, maybe
Like
they're doing the whole like
like
be
the
different.
artist?
Exactly.
I want to walk out fully like believing that the best way to shoot that movie was in a square aspect ratio and in black and white.
Exactly. I would say that. I want them to justify to me that it should be in black and white.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to leave thinking like, oh God, they just did that to like get
And
attention.
I believe we're going to be getting an R. Pat's Best Actor nominee out of this,
Really?
and a Willem Dafoe Best Supporting. I believe they're campaigning supporting.
Do you think we'll be seeing any love triangles
What between
between
Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe?
midway?
Like a
The
mermaid?
sexy lighthouse attendant shows up. It's my first day. Let me show you around. Oh, it's all right. I got it.
Oh, is he Irish?
In the movie, yes.
Oh,
New start. That's what he said. I'm looking for a new start. Oh. I've got it. You know what else I feel? I bet you the how long have we been on this rock line isn't even in the movie.
no.
I don't think that line's gonna be. I
We're
think that
getting
was
a Mama, I'm going past Ricky Bobby here.
that was definitely that was definitely a studio like guy being like, we need a line for the trailer because what you're filming, we can't. Cut it.
we can't sell this.
Yeah,
Robert.
exactly.
You've given us nothing.
And it took like 6 hours to convince Willem to say such a like movie generic line.
I think we'll probably get a scene where someone gets injured.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like one of them falls from like
exactly.
like the lighthouse or like a mid level.
Maybe in like a storm, and then either Willem Dafoe or Robert Pattinson will have to swallow their pride and like kind of take care of the person.
Yeah, or I could, you know what I could see, like Robert Pattinson or obviously getting a high fever.
Oh yeah.
And it cuts to like 6 months
The
later,
ocean's got you now.
and like Willem Dafoe's like overly bearing, like wants to take care of him, and he just wants to be left alone. And he's like
can I get
the
the
old
shivering
wrinkly.
again?
Let me take care of you, boy. No.
Not my first time I dealt with this.
Yeah, and he's like kind of overly touching like
Yeah.
his forehead. You have a fever.
Yeah,
But
it'll be like a quick 2-second, 3-second shot of the fever, and then immediately cut 6 months later.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll never talk about the fever again.
Yeah, definitely think we'll get some of that. Do you think that we could be seeing like, you know how the movie opens with or you think the movie opens with Willem Dafoe digging the grave? Do you think we might end with some like a simile where we see Robert Pattinson digging a grave?
See, I would say yes, but I feel like that's too obvious for A24 and Robert Eggers.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna end and we're gonna be like, oh, that was it?
I think we'll get a lot of comedy in this movie, like unintentional comedy. I think like awkward silences, a lot of like playing on like
Oh, okay, yeah.
just that they're not like they don't have that chemistry with
They
each
don't
other.
vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think they'll...
Or like Robert Pattinson wakes up in his first morning and Willem Dafoe's just like sitting I've watched you sleep. You know what I mean? Like that.
Or
kind
he's
of
doing like his morning stretches in his like saggy underwear. She keeps me limber.
You can see the shadows of his balls.
Robert Pattinson looks over, rolls his eyes, turns
Yeah.
over, goes back to
A
sleep.
little bit of a laugh track. If this movie has a laugh track, I'm walking out.
I'm staying. Keeps me limber.
Yeah, two of his stretches. What do you think? We get some like masturbation comedy? Like everyone's sleeping on a bunk bed, you just hear. How long have you been jacking off? 6 months. I think we might. I think we're gonna get masturbation humor.
You think we're getting a jerk off joke? Do I
Yeah.
have to write that one
Yeah.
down for the post?
Write it down. Because I think like they're both isolated from women. Maybe.
I feel like the idea of women won't even come up. I feel like there'll be no sexuality in this movie.
Oh, dude, Robert Eggers is a sexual deviant, and we all know it.
He's an absolute sicko.
Yeah, definitely. I think they'll be talking about like how they haven't like my sea legs haven't seen a woman like felt a woman's warmth or whatever.
Okay.
And then they just kind of stare at each other for a bit. You know what I mean? And then it's never brought up again. But I don't think we're getting any gay.
So, you said initially started masturbation. Are we getting gay?
I think that's the foreshadowing. So you see that Willem Dafoe's yanking one out one morning. Write that down. All caps.
Dafoe wanking out, okay?
About 30 minutes later, they're talking about women in another scene, and he talks about how he hasn't been with a woman for a long time. And then they just look at each other for like 10 seconds.
And then the scene
well,
breaks.
good night.
By like a wave crash.
Yeah.
I think the...
Or maybe it cuts outside and the lighthouse light goes off.
You see some silhouettes in the lighthouse booth.
It's interesting how we've chosen the Lighthouse for our first movie to predict, because it's probably one of the most challenging movies we could possibly have picked.
Exactly. Like, I think in other films, there's obvious scenes we're gonna get.
Especially
exposition.
sequels. So I think our goal for this podcast is also to, like, we love going to see like those big, highly anticipated movies, and we spend so much time talking with each other about like what we're gonna see and what we're gonna expect, and I think a lot of people do the same. I think for everyone listening right now, like who's into movies, how often do you spend just talking with your friends about like what was gonna happen in Endgame?
Exactly. Or like how many of you had similar predictions as us, even for the Lighthouse? To it, right?
So I think it's good that we're starting off with something challenging. All right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of bases here. So let's just quickly recap. So we're looking for one of them killing the other.
For sure. I think that's a given.
Very confident. Potential parental lineage, but I don't think so.
I could see it.
I think some sexual tension.
Some sexual tension. We have Willem Dafoe whacking it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get that, and that's gonna be used for humor.
Yeah, we have some nudity.
Yeah, yoga.
Yes, the yoga scene is a must.
Yeah, mermaids potentially.
Yeah, we said Kraken. Mermaids or sea
I think
creature.
I'm more confident of sea monsters, but I'll be more proud of myself if I can.
For sure. So I'll put you down for. I'm putting you down for mermaid, and I'm gonna put myself down for Kraken.
And I do think that the lighthouse tests your morality and makes you confront your inner demons is gonna be a theme throughout the film.
Okay.
I don't think that's what its purpose is, but I think.
Is the lighthouse real, Antony, or is it kind of like the island in Lost?
Man.
That's the $1 million question.
I think it's real, but I think that it'll be left somewhat ambiguous. But I'm gonna go with real.
Okay, and our final prediction: color.
We're not getting any color, and I'll fight you to the death.
I'm putting yes, and I'm signing my name next to it.
All right, so you're about to hear us tomorrow.
Yeah.
I hope we enjoyed the movie, and yeah, pick it up, future Antony and Aman.
Back.
Yes, we are.
Luckily, we had almost a full day to digest the film. We watched it last night.
Yeah.
Here we are on a nice, brisk Friday night.
This is how we spend our Friday nights.
All right, Packers. So, before we proceed, let's just say right now, spoiler alert.
Yeah, heavy spoilers inbound.
We're going to be dissecting this, and we're going to do it in absolutely no chronological order.
Yeah.
So hopefully you've seen the movie and buckle up.
And fully in character as Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, we're not going to do that.
What did you think of the film?
Well...
Let's get some first impressions here, just overall.
Yeah, first impressions, I was thoroughly impressed with the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was pretty terrific. I'm sort of hanging around the 8.5, maybe even 9 region right now.
Oh, you're throwing numbers out early.
I'm throwing numbers.
We were saving numbers for the end.
No.
Sign off.
I'll give you a final number at the end, but that's kind of... Honestly, I was blown away by numerous aspects of the movie. First and foremost, the performances.
Okay.
Wow.
So, do you want to dive into that? I'll provide my initial reactions here.
Yeah, sure. Then let's do some initial reactions. Then we'll hop into what we predicted, and then maybe we'll talk a bit more about the movie after.
Okay, we'll break it down. So my initial reaction is I thought it was good. I can appreciate it for what it was. Obviously not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I mean, I can respect it. There was definitely aspects of it that I loved.
Yeah.
And certain aspects I didn't. And we'll
Fair
get into
enough.
that.
I think what was notable for me is like one of our big concerns going in, just before we talk about the predictions, was we were worried it was going to be just too experimental, too out there, just throwing kind of shit against the wall. And there's definitely some of that.
Yep.
But overall, there was a nice plot that was more linear and more traditionally narrative than I was expecting.
I agree with you somewhat on that.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that a bit later on.
All right, so let's do a little jingle for predictions, please.
Predictions. Which ones came true?
Ding. Okay, so I'm very impressed with our performance here.
Yeah, I think we kind of nailed this.
I think anyone listening probably thinks we saw the movie first.
And we didn't.
And we did not.
Yeah.
And you can check the the recording data from this SD card if you want.
Yeah, DM me and I'll send you the data.
Screenshots.
Non-altered. I don't know how Photoshop works. So.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. So I'm just gonna read through some of the predictions we had here, just off my memory. Okay, so one thing that we got wrong, potentially, was that Willem Dafoe knows his way off the island the whole time.
Oh, did we get that wrong though?
I mean, that is kind of ambiguous.
Yeah.
Okay, let's skip over that one for now. Robert Pattinson kills Willem Dafoe.
Spoiler alert,
Yeah.
he does.
That was nail on the head from yours truly. Aliens visit Lighthouse. I think we can confirm that as false.
Yeah. If we kind of look into you and I, you said mermaid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We got some...
And we got a mermaid early on, and just a quick aside, one of this, like, I've seen a lot of horror movies in theaters. I'm kind of numb to a lot of horror movies. Like, I find them scary, but I'm not like... It takes a lot in a movie for me to divert my, that instinct. You want to turn your head. And I had that in this movie more than, like, horror movies.
Yeah, this movie was deeply unsettling.
It was. Like, the visuals and the way that they break the fourth wall. Like, even at the beginning, when Robert Pattinson and, I'm trying to think of the characters' names, and they're just completely escaping me.
Well, there's like Tom and Tom.
Thomas. Yeah, okay. So the two characters are basically, they're looking at the boat leaving that just dropped them off, and they're just staring at you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And there's a theme that kind of went throughout the movie. I think it was like, Robert Pattinson was under a microscope the whole time, and I think they were trying to make the audience feel that way.
Yep.
But with the mermaid, I don't know. I don't think the mermaids were actually there.
Mermaids don't exist. So.
Well, it's a film fiction, so yeah. I think they're a figment of someone from his past or like temptation, and there were some themes of that going on. But you're looking at like the camera just in like an 85mm tight frame on her face, and she's just smiling at you, and then starts screaming.
That screaming, I was like, "Holy fuck, like, get me the hell out of this theater."
So we definitely got the mermaids right, but I won't give ourselves too much credit for that because I did see the figurine.
The figurine, yeah. Did we get Kraken? Kind of. We got some tentacle. We got a few tentacle shots.
But I think the biggest prediction. Let me just read this to you. This is what I wrote. Robert Pattinson clearly has a dark past and is running from something. Maybe he's a murderer.
Now, are you telling me he's a murderer prior to the killing Willem Dafoe?
Yeah, and you learn throughout the movie, at least a story he tells, that he accidentally killed a logger in Canada. I like the Canadian connection in the movie as well.
Hudson Bay Company.
Sure. Yeah, Hudson Bay Company. So you see this guy a few times. Like Willem Dafoe suddenly turns into this like young lumberjack sort of character. So pretty proud of that.
So we've kind of broken down our predictions in terms of theme and plot. Let's get into ask you a few fast questions.
Yeah, hit me. Is this a segment?
This is
fast questions.
We're following up on fast questions.
Fast questions. Okay, let's go.
Fast questions. Here we go.
This is where we just read normal questions, but we say them really fast.
Well, this is where I read you the normal questions.
What do you think of the movie?
I read you these questions before.
Okay.
And
I don't remember
you gave
them,
me an answer. So the first one I asked you was, Antony, is there going to be a death? And you said yes.
Ding!
The second one I said, Antony, is there going to be nudity? Are we going to see Willem Dafoe's cheeks? And did we see them?
No, you said dick.
I said cheeks. You said dick.
Oh, we saw his cheeks.
We saw some cheeks. We saw both cheeks. Actually.
Half mark. Ding.
Yeah, okay.
I like a ding.
The third question was, is there going to be color in this movie?
I knew there was not going to be color. That was the kind of thing that someone who like doesn't watch these kind of movies very often comes with. It's not Wizard of Oz, man.
I wanted to believe. I thought there was going to be a rainbow at the end of this this path here.
There's some light, but definitely not color.
All right, and now let's get into the predictions that we.
That's all you asked me? I thought you had 5 fast questions.
I only had 3 fast questions. Let's get into predictions that we. I say we, but I think you actually nailed these on the nail on the fucking head.
All right, let's hear it.
Antony said, "Book it. There's going to be a masturbation scene."
Yeah, I did say that.
And we got 2. We got a little giggly around this one, but Antony said there's going to be some sort of scene where Willem Dafoe complains about the lack of a woman's warmth between her legs.
Yeah.
And then they kind of look at each other.
Yeah.
And Antony Packard, did we get that scene?
We got that fucking scene.
We got some serious sexual tension.
But it was more elevated than I even predicted.
Exactly.
Like in the movie, they're doing the dancing and stuff, and they're just sanity slipping away, and they get closer and closer, and all of a sudden Willem Dafoe is just like ready to fucking make out with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? As silly as it sounds right now, it worked.
Dude, it worked so well, and that's down to Robert Eggers, obviously, his script. I'd love to read the screenplay.
Yeah,
because how specific he was. and how much he left to the actors.
Yeah,
I'd love
I wonder
to just...
if he's Aaron Sorkin like, where he doesn't allow any improvisation.
Yeah,
Keeps
well,
them.
I actually read or I heard an interview with Robert Pattinson where he was saying that for this movie they did it very much like a play. So like literally just the three of them, the director, the two actors would just be in a room for, I think he said like 2 months, just going through it over and over and over again. And I think
grueling, eh?
he was trying to almost get that insanity out of them because they were so sick of. That's how I interpreted it. Like if I was directing that, it's a good idea, right? Just almost make them sick of each other in real life.
Yeah,
and that's gonna come out on screen, and it definitely did.
definitely. Okay, so that's pretty much it for predictions we got right. We won't talk about the ones that we got wrong, because...
I think, can we talk about some of the just big plot twists and like if we found them surprising?
Sure, sure.
So, a big theme in the movie, I still feel uncomfortable talking about this because it's such big spoilers. So, if you at this point...
Yeah, that's true.
If you're at this point, then you've seen the movie, so we can talk about it. It's just...
Exactly. I think the prediction half is for people gearing up for the movie.
Yeah, totally.
Drum up some excitement. And if you're coming and joining us in this second half here, you're looking to get a little breakdown.
Yeah,
have a little laugh with us. And
yeah, totally. One thing that I feel like we didn't think about much, that we could have, is we didn't really think about like what these guys are going to be doing the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked that aspect, how sort of Willem Dafoe was the boss, and he had these see to your duties. So like he was just bossing him around, and there was a real power dynamic, and it was very like mundane. The plot was Robert Pattinson doing his chores. They're getting harder and kind of more disgusting. And that just kept going on, and there was this jealousy brewing because Willem Dafoe has the good job.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe's got the nice cushy job.
Yeah, where he just takes care of
dragging drums of oil up the stairs.
Oh, and there's like, how long was that scene? Like 2 minutes of him just literally dragging that, and I was like, I feel for you, man. Like I've been a bartender.
Yeah, this is so laboring. Right
now. And the movie sort of culminates with the jealousy overtaking, not knowing who's lying. Yeah, you just lose at that point. Like I don't think anyone can really know.
Yeah, I think that's what Robert Eggers is going for. He wants you to interpret in your own. I mean, if he had handed us the ending on a silver platter, we would have complained. But have some respect for your audience.
And I'm sure there's things that we missed.
Oh, of course.
And speaking of that, this is my sort of another segment. I'm going to come up with a name for it on the spot. I'm going to call it Associated Predictions. And that's when we actually did see the movie with another guy. And I drove him home after the movie, and he dropped a theory on me that I thought was just like unbelievable.
Oh, okay. Are we gonna take a deep dive into this right now?
Yeah, I'd love to, because it kind of ties into the ending a little bit. So seagulls were a huge theme in this movie.
All throughout, yeah.
And initially one of them's kind of bothering him, and he's just kind of grossed out by their flappy wings and stuff. And I think he smacks one, and Willem Dafoe sees it, and he's like, "Don't be hurting the seagulls.
Don't be hitting the seabirds."
And we learn that the reason why that is a superstition that dead sailors incorporate the souls of these gulls. And Willem Dafoe is very touchy about it. And you learn about a quarter way through the movie that his last assistant went mad and died. So you're like, oh, is Robert Pattinson going to follow this path? And then there's this brilliant scene in the movie where he's trying to sleep, and the seagull lands on his bedroom window, and starts pecking at it. Yeah. And Steven has this great idea that the original assistant is occupying his soul is occupying the soul of that seagull, and he's trying to warn Robert Pattinson.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and like it just makes so much sense.
Damn.
And it's a great theory. So I got to shout out Steven for that one.
Antony, let's break down this movie for its different components here. First one I'd like to touch on is the acting.
Best part of the movie.
Best part of the movie. I think this is the easiest one to talk about because I think we're both in agreement in this.
Yeah, like the chemistry was just unbelievable. It's like we had such a good year for performances. Like obviously Joaquin Phoenix's Joker's getting a lot of buzz, and this was at that level, I would say, especially Willem Dafoe.
I thought Willem Dafoe was fantastic.
Yeah, like the shakes in his body, like that old man kind of shake, the farting, and when Robert Pattinson, there's this great scene as well where Robert Pattinson just snaps and he's like razzing him for everything that bothers him, and those are little habits that Willem Dafoe started doing. Like you'd imagine how he smelled, you imagine like his annoying chewing, his teeth, and he just brought all that up, and it was so good, man.
Then I thought there was a lot of nonverbal acting as well, especially from what I saw from Mr. Pattinson. Was there's that one scene where he's kind of walking into the water and he's seeing these logs shift.
That as someone I just felt like I was drowning while I was watching that. Visceral for sure.
And of course, we joked about this after the movie, is the dancing scene.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a
Which is
prediction
fun.
that we kind of got wrong. We had Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe do drugs together, and in a sense they do because they just get blisteringly
Just
drunk.
absolutely wasted.
Yeah. And like that was a big theme as well, like alcoholism. Like, is that one of the more underlying themes of the movie?
Yeah, because in the end they start sipping on the lamp fluid, the kerosene.
Yeah,
or something. So I don't know what's going on there. So acting, I believe, from what I've read online, is they're campaigning Dafoe to get Best Supporting.
I think he's got more of a chance.
I think that's a lock. I think Best.
Like, you think a win is on lock, or at least a nomination?
I think a win is on lock. Although, I mean, how can I say I've only seen?
It's still October, yeah.
Exactly.
But he'll be nominated.
He'll be nominated for sure. Pattinson might get the nomination.
Yeah.
But I still think Joaquin's taken
I
far.
I think Robert Pattinson kind of, when you watch his performances, he's obviously a great performer, but you still feel like he's growing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few moments where, like, I don't want to be critical of his performance because it's so good. But
Get critical, man.
There's moments where, like,
here.
you sort of look at into his eyes and, like, he almost looks like someone trying to portray an emotion a little bit.
Yeah.
He's not quite there.
He's not there yet, but he's on his way.
But, like, yeah, he especially the scenes where he has to really lose it, because he does. It's a kind of a straight man, funny man at the beginning.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson's the straight laced, I don't
Definitely.
drink, but you see that kind of unravel.
I did notice one thing, and I don't know if this is
go on.
intentional because
I'd be interested in any criticisms you have.
So my one criticism for this acting category is, and the only reason I picked it up, I wouldn't normally notice this, is that I was trying to, because we keep doing the Willem Dafoe impressions, and you mentioned that Robert Pattinson, we thought he was Irish going into this.
Yeah, and he starts
Exactly.
So,
So I was like, I'm gotta hammer down this R. Pats impression for the the after portion of the podcast, and his accent slowly changes throughout the movie, and he loses it, he gains it. I don't know if that's Robert Pattinson's lack of experience or if that's part of the character's lying mentality.
I don't think it is, because the moments I noticed he lost it is when, I think the hardest time to maintain an accent is when you're yelling and when you're angry.
So when he does flip out, right?
Yeah, when he flips out, it sounds more like default actor American.
Yeah.
Whereas when he's talking kind of humbly, he's quite Irish in a few moments, and then it kind of, that's a fair critique, but not a major issue.
So the next topic I want to touch on here is I'll let you take the realm on this one. I have a little bit of notes, but is the directing. So if you want to take a deep dive into that, or
well, I guess the first thing anyone's going to ask when talking about the directing of this movie is going to be why the color palette and why the aspect ratio.
Exactly. Those are my first two notes.
So I think,
let me ask you this.
Right.
Did you find that this movie would be, did it justify, because we talked about we didn't want the black and white to be a gimmick. We didn't want to be like the artist. Did you find that the black and white was deserved and justified?
I'll start with the black and white.
Yep.
Yes. Especially, and he makes sure he addresses that right away, because the opening scene of the movie, we tried to guess the opening scene as well.
We didn't really get it. You got the noise?
There's some noises, but what it really is just them arriving, and you just see, it's just a gray film, and you slowly realize it's fog and ocean. And I don't think you can catch that. You can't make it feel as eerie and as truly isolating as when it's in black and white. Yeah. So right away, justify purpose.
Yeah. I definitely it was a very immersive film. I didn't.
It really was, and the beauty of that. That ties in nicely to the not to keep talking over you. Sorry.
Go ahead.
But the aspect ratio. Normally, we think of encompassing. We think of IMAX. We think of really widescreen. But it was such a well-built, small little world that almost that's why I feel like the square aspect ratio is also justified.
Exactly. Yeah. It was such a small living quarters that it felt claustrophobic, and it just felt so deserved. I didn't want it to be wide. I didn't want to see it in IMAX.
No.
It worked.
And we had the perfect theater as well. 6 people in the theater.
All a bit younger than us.
Yeah, the audience was much younger than I was expecting, but sometimes when I saw Joker, there was a bunch of teenagers next to me, and the scenes where he's just laughing on the bus, they're all kind of snickering and giggling to themselves, and they just weren't mature enough to watch it.
Yeah.
Whereas we had a young audience, but props to them, they were like...
It was quiet.
Yeah, and the movie definitely wants you to laugh sometimes.
Yep. Yeah,
and it's more of a comedy than I was expecting, but man, the more I talk about it, the more I really, really loved it.
Yeah, I think I just had a few notes about the direction. It was the choice of the sound for, I don't know if it was a foghorn.
Oh no, it was more like an alarm, right?
But it was so jarring and unsettling, and every time it came off, I was like, oh fuck me, I just want to leave this theater. The other thing I liked was the different shot framing he used. So there was one with the burial, when Willem Dafoe's getting
Oh
buried,
my
and there's
God.
dirt falling on his mouth and
Props
in
to
his
Willem
eyes.
Dafoe for taking that one. That,
Yeah, and I was
like,
just like, this is incredible.
Yeah, because he was literally getting mud in his mouth and eyes, and
Yeah,
that's
and
not a
he
comfortable
just,
feeling.
And he just worked through it.
He didn't cough. He just kept talking.
Yeah.
Like, he was... Oh.
He's all in.
It's the best performance I think I've ever seen from Willem Dafoe.
Oh, yeah. And then the other one was the walking into water scene that we talked about before. It was kind of...
Super unsettling. And there was a big theme, and this is a very usual one with this kind of movie, is like escalation of weather with escalation of stakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we see that the weather gets worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
And someone who... I love swimming in the ocean, but like there's something about deep sea that really scares me.
Yep.
Because you're just so hopeless. And there's a few shots where it really puts you in a storm.
Yes.
And it's that horrible gray murky
That's
ocean,
exactly,
and you're just like, I hate this.
Shots of the water and the waves and it.
And it's coming into the house.
Because it's in black and white, it's so dark.
Yeah.
And it's just like you don't know how deep you are, and you just get lost in it. It's so scary.
I'd say the last thing I would just shout out the director for, and this is more of an acting thing as well, but I love to see unlazy role reversal. So what I mean by that is usually when you've got like a boss and a employee type relationship or a father-son, there's usually a point in a movie where it'll switch the authority.
Yep.
For example, maybe the dad's an alcoholic, so the son has to take care of him, or you know what I mean? Like there's that kind of switch, and I knew that was coming. And it felt very gradual. It was more like the more time that went on, the less of a lure the captain, Willem Dafoe's authority had over Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, yeah.
And you started to realize, he's like, you know what? Like, because there's that scene where he berates him. He's like, if I tell you to take apart this whole place and put it back together, you'll do it with a smile on your face. And some of the monologues, by the way, were excellent.
Yeah, monologues, cool.
But the more Robert Pattinson realized, when I don't do what I'm told, there's not really any consequences.
Yeah, what's this old man gonna do?
Yeah,
right?
and like his what's the word? His shield of authority starts to wear away, and I thought that was just, I don't know how. As a director, that's a tough thing to pull off.
So my next point is cinematography. So for this one, we talk about black and white, and there's a specific scene that comes to mind is Willem Dafoe's monologue after they fight. When he says he doesn't like the cooking.
Oh.
And he monologues, and then the way the shot's framed and the shadows on his face make him look so menacing, and the way the light is played, I thought it was incredible. And I think the lighting and shadows, especially in a black and white film, is just amazing in this. Some
good use of cigarette smoke as well. When they're puffing it sort of towards the light, you can feel it in the air.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of light,
that's a lot of depth.
When Robert Pattinson finally gets to the light, there's like...
It's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
He's screaming and his face is up, and he almost looks like a alien or a monster.
Yeah, he's like turning into a light almost.
Yeah. You know? Oh, and there's that one weird scene where Willem Dafoe's face is like the light, and he's like naked.
Oh yeah, I have that coming up.
That was one moment that I was like, that's a bit too much for me.
So this is a good way to segment into what I feel is the weakness of the film was the writing and the plot. Less so the writing, but the plot, like kind of like almost the story or lack thereof. So you and I, we talked about how it's easy to throw random scenes together, and this movie kind of portrays a descent into madness. But I think it is a little cheapened because there is some of those random scenes in there, like the one where Willem Dafoe is the light, and you're kind of like, oh, like I can make my own conclusion as to what that infers, but
to me that's kind of like, that's more, and I could be totally wrong, but I imagine like when you're writing a script like this, or you're maybe on set and you're playing a little bit, sometimes I think like there is a little bit of let's do this just for the sake of doing it.
Exactly.
And you can get away with a few scenes like that in a movie, and maybe you shouldn't have an explanation for everything. You know, there's a way around explaining it. But that one to me,
but even saying that sentence there is a bit of a cop out.
It's a bit of a cop out. Yeah, it's kind of like Kanye's music now. I'm not gonna
album
get into
dropped
that.
today. Shout out Kanye.
Yeah, album dropped today, and there's definitely such a thing as just doing things for the sake of it in music and film. And we'll save that for another day. Maybe I'll have another guy on the show to talk about that. Yeah. You know who you are.
There was some smart writing as well, and this one I did actually come across online, and it was during the monologue by Willem Dafoe. He mentioned something about he wishes him a Prometheus death. So I had to look up what's a Prometheus death, and Prometheus died because he stole fire from the gods. and then Zeus sentenced him. He chained him up, and a bird, in this case it was Zeus's eagle, would constantly tear at his liver.
Yeah, which we saw at the end.
So Robert Pattinson gets to light, and the seagull's pulling his liver up.
So that's a great sort of segue, I think, to conclude this. Is what is your final interpretation of the story and the ending? And I think that's kind of what you're saying, but let's just hear it nicely laid out.
I just see it as a descent into madness. Someone who's kind of isolated on a rock. I kind of got the sense that he was fighting with some demons. So obviously we talked about he's a murderer on the run. I think there was some substance.
On the run.
I think there was some substance abuse issues as well.
Yeah.
And I think
masculinity as well, big theme.
And I think I think it just portrays a man's descent into madness.
Yeah. And there's the other sort of side of the coin. There is also loneliness. Willem Dafoe's character, almost like when someone is so lonely, and he has that thing about loneliness is a sickness.
You're talking about Willem Dafoe is lonely in this case.
Lonely, right? Because nobody sort of takes to him.
Yeah.
And I think he's a bit of don't think he's accomplished as much as he wanted to in his life. So he's kind of power hungry and trying to make others feel small to make himself feel big. And there's that moment where, Robert Pattinson's taking the escape boat and he's like, "Don't leave me."
Yes.
And but then it's like, then they go inside and he's like, "You're going crazy," just like when you try to destroy the lifeboat.
Yeah, you and I had a bit of an argument about this.
I don't know what to believe. And I think your theme, like the sort of lighthouse, the temptation, stealing, was it light from the gods or fire from the gods? Yeah. So that's kind of what he does when he touches the lighthouse, and then he gets his punishment.
Exactly.
Maybe it's the seagulls that are governing that situation. But at the risk of sounding dumb, that could be wrong. That's just maybe there's a more.
I remember because when we got in a bit of a debate when Willem Dafoe tells him that Robert Pattinson was the one destroying the lifeboat.
As you said, you're Team RP. You think he was definitely trying to.
Yeah, I think he was still sane at that point.
Was Willem Dafoe even there?
Yeah, he was.
He a real character?
I think Willem Dafoe was just he was just gaslighting. He was telling him lies. And
there's another time he said, "Yeah, I could be a figment of your imagination," and he's like, "Really, man?" He's like, "You're just trying to scare me." He's like, "No, I'm not." But I'm sure people are going to be talking about this movie for a long time.
I think so, yeah, and I think it's the kind of movie. Would you if I told you I have tickets again for tomorrow night, would you go? No,
and that's not a phase against the movie.
Yeah,
it's just certain movies like that I feel like deserve time.
Mm.
I will watch the movie again if that's what you're asking. It just won't be tomorrow.
See, I don't know if I will.
Fair enough.
I had a couple of people ask me because I told them I'd watch it, and a couple of people at work today said, "Oh, would you recommend it?" And I kind of thought about it for a bit, and I said, I know the kind of movies that these people like. They're very similar to me, and I'm like, no, I don't think you'll like it.
Fair enough. If you're looking for a sort of traditional psychological thriller, you're probably just gonna be unenchanted by this movie.
Yeah,
it's gonna appear dull.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are someone who is a big fan of just the performing arts and watching people perform and very classic stories of theme, then I think this movie's for you.
The one thing that I forgot to touch on here, Anthony, was we had a surprising amount of humor in this movie.
Yeah.
And did you find that was jarring, or did you find that it worked?
No, I think the humor was much needed.
Yes,
and
I agree.
Came at the right times. Wasn't too heavy. It's quite twisted.
It's quite twisted. There was a couple jump scares as well.
Yeah. When he just destroys that seagull.
Yeah, that was actually, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Not in a weird way, but I thought that was enjoying. It didn't scare me much. The scene that really scared me was the mermaid.
The mermaid and the ocean, that kind of claustrophobia.
Yeah, I just felt I wanted to move, but I couldn't. I was stuck.
Also, just little moments where he is just walking around, he looks up, and Willem Dafoe's just watching him.
Yeah. Oh god, it's so creepy.
Yeah, and just knowing that you've got to sleep next to that person every night, and that would just be so horrible. Doesn't matter if you even like the guy. You need your personal space, and there's a noticeable lack of personal space in that movie.
Let's go out of 10.
All right, how many seagulls are you gonna give this movie?
I give this movie 3 seagulls, 1 missing an eye, and 1 with a broken neck.
No, we gotta come up with our own rating system. Okay, no, I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10. I'm gonna sit here. 6.5 out of 10.
6.5?
Maybe 7, but 6.5 out of 10.
Wow, that surprises me. All right, well, I've had an absolute blast doing this with you.
I've had an absolute blast as well. We hope our listeners enjoy it.
Yeah, I really hope you enjoyed. And if you have any feedback or anything, get in touch with us. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
For sure.
Hopefully this is the start of a legacy.
Exactly.
All right, thanks guys. That was
Antony and Aman signing off.
This is. See you later.